Are you an entrepreneur on the rise or already in the business game? Stay tuned to understand how you can protect your business from potential risks. Hello and welcome to the Insurance Insights podcast by your trusted brand Policybazaar. We host this podcast every fortnight to help you make the smartest insurance decisions. If you've ever wondered why do businesses even need insurance, you'll get all your answers in today's episode. We all know accidents can happen anytime, anywhere. And when they do happen, business insurance helps you cover for damages that you would otherwise have to pay from your own pocket. You know, there are many ways having business insurance can help your company. It saves you time and money, it offers you peace of mind, it protects your business from damages, and it offers benefits to your employees. Today, we have the privilege of discussing this topic with an esteemed expert in this field, Sajja Praveen Chowdary, Business Unit Head of Corporate and SME Insurance at Policybazaar. Welcome to the show, Sajja.
Hi, Simran.
So let's dive right in, Sajja. Now, we all know that Policybazaar has become a household name when it comes to retail insurance, right? But what exactly is the story behind the inception of PB for business? And what is your vision for this newly rebranded segment of Policybazaar?
So on the business insurance side, right, there are broadly two categories. One is, the entire employee healthcare or employee wellness and employee health insurance piece. And the other is primarily any insurance that's related to business, which might be with respect to, your property insurance or your liability insurance or your marine insurance and so on and so forth. On the employee health insurance kind of thing, whatever has been there, it's been done majorly manually. All the processes have been manual in nature. And that's how it has been there for ages, and not too much of very well integrated with wellness and very small bit of wellness here and there. What we saw is that there is clearly a space there which can be done much more effectively and much more efficiently with the use of technology, which we have kind of been able to build out through this 15 years of journey of Policybazaar retail insurance. And that's one thing which clearly came out, and also a very well integrated platform along with wellness. That's one of the things which we've been able to stitch in the last 2 years and been able to showcase to our clients, and that's what they're loving about us most of the times. And that's one clear-cut thing which we saw as a space, And second side is the other, broadly the business insurance space which we spoke about. There's a wide range of products in that, which is either from a SME or a startup who buys a small marine policy worth about 1,000, 2,000 rupees to, say someone who buys a liability policy is worth of lakhs and crores kind of. So we saw that similar to the retail side, some bit of comparison, some bit of, transparency is not there over there. And somewhere we've built up the platform, for startups and for small and medium enterprises kind of thing, where they can compare and buy policies and the ones that they want rather than, someone just buying some policy which is costlier or not so effective kind of thing. At the same time, we've been able to build out practice lines on this business insurance side, especially with respect to liability, where we've been able to, address some of the needs of the clients in a much how do I put it, much better way kind of thing. Yeah. So that's where this entire thing is this entire entity or rebranding and rebranded entity has started off from. And from the opportunity that we've seen in the segment in terms of either there's a lot of automation possible through technology and what can be done, or the comparison that can be given to clients, or through better utilization of all products together kind of.
And Sajja, what are the different types of business insurance being offered by PB for business?
So on the business insurance side, as I said, right, there are broadly two categories which we just spoke about: the employee health insurance or the employee piece and the non-employee piece. The employee piece, there are multiple products that we offer, which is with respect to group medical insurance, or group mediclaim is what it's called generally in the market, which is group health insurance for employees, then group personal accident for employees, and group term life for employees kind of thing. Yeah, that's primarily on the employee wellness side. And very well embedded with wellness kind of thing, which is with respect to other teleconsultations, OPD packages, which we get through insurance companies kind of. The other side of it is the non-employee side of it. The non-employee side of it has a vast area of things, whether it's about marine insurance, which might be a small one-time policies for the small traders kind of thing, or an annual open or a sales turnover policies for large corporations kind of, right? Or say engineering policies, which is constructional risk, erectional risk, which is generally there, when you're having a project that's going on and so on and so forth. Or say property insurance for, say, whether it's for factory, whether it's for office, or whether it's for those who have large storage areas like godowns and so on and so forth. Or restaurants and so on and so forth. And then there's the entire vast area of liability, which starts with, say, a workman compensation, which is normally required to take care of liability of any temporary workers and so on and so forth, towards say a directors and officers policy, which will take care of any liability towards directors and officers, or a errors and omissions policy, which is also called as professional indemnity, where kind of, in case of any error on behalf of your employees, certain things which happen, and the client has a, it leads to client claiming or, kind of putting a suit on you. It takes care of your company kind of. Or there are other things like, which is like cyber insurance or, product liability, because if your product, someone else, some damage is happening to someone and then they claiming and so on and so forth. So it's a vast range of products that we offer. And it's not only that, a lot of this segment is, has a lot of, how do you put it? There can be products which can be stitched, if required. So anything and everything that a business needs from an insurance perspective, which has a risk and where there's an insurable interest, there's a product that can be created with insurance companies, because this segment itself has evolved over a period of time in that way. So some of the products as I listed, and if there's someone who has a unique need, we happily go to insurance companies and try to do it. One of the finest examples of it is event insurance. While there's some form of event insurance in place, but most of the times, every time a new kind of category comes in, they have new requirements. We'll have to stitch in and make it a proper, policy, which can made through all risk policy or some kind of liability policy, and so on and so forth. So that's how it is.
Now, Sajja, there are already a lot of players in the market offering business insurance, right? What exactly are we doing differently to stand apart?
See, that's exactly what we spoke about in the initial question, right? Where we've seen a space very clearly being there. One is on the employee benefits side, where there are things which are being done, but all of these were being done manually in terms of, right? Whether it's in terms of the way employees would nominate their, beneficiaries, or not beneficiaries, but the people who are enrolled into policy, whether it's about spouse, parents, and so on and so forth, or the way the data would flow between HR, taking it up and then sending it to insurance company, and then the way it would get endorsed and so on and so forth, or in terms of the way your e-cards and your claims, whether how can you get an e-card at any point of time through manual intervention, without manual intervention, or whether it's about claiming, is there a paperless process possible? All of this was a space which was available, where things were happening very manually kind of, which we could do, integrate very well and differentiate from what the regular offering was there in the market, and that too by stitching it very well with the wellness piece in an integrated manner. The second thing being on the non-employee piece, very clearly there was a space where there was lacking in terms of probably comparison for the small and medium enterprises or for startups, where we do a very wonderful job, where we kind of provide multiple options to them, and we're able to get them to choose the option that suits them the best. And that's one clear-cut area of differentiation, despite people being there or other players being there in the market. And other is obviously with time, we spent about 15 years in the industry on the retail side and other business side, right? We have much deeper understanding on few of the products, and where we work very, very deeply with insurance companies. Somewhere we're leveraging those relationships also to kind of, develop practice lines on other products on non-employee side, where we should be able to get much deeper, we partner much deeper and be able to, kind of get new products created basis our consumer needs kind of. That's clearly an area where we're able to differentiate despite the players who are there already in the market in the business insurance space.
So when businesses are assessing their insurance needs, how exactly should they determine the appropriate coverage level that they would need?
See, when businesses try to, and I'm assuming this question is primarily about the non-employee space, where much of this coverage and everything is spoken about. There are ways to look at it multiple policy, right? If you're referring to a policy which is, say, a fire policy, or say particularly a marine policy, things are very, very clear. It's basically the amount of loss or the value of items that are there, which you have to declare right and which you have to understand, or which you have to determine in the right way. That amount of whatever the value of goods or value of the items that you're insuring itself becomes the sum insured kind of. So to ensure that you are covering for that value, or you're taking insurance for that value and not underestimating or overestimating the value kind of. Right. Now, when you refer, this is on the very simple things like, either a marine policy or a say property and so on and so forth. When you refer to other side of it, which is probably a liability and so on and so forth, there are certain things which are determined basis your turnover, or the contract value that you're getting into a contract with other party kind of. Those are things basis which a benchmarking is done. So that's where some part of expertise from say a broker or a partner like us comes in kind of, where our team is able to take those details in the form of proposal form from the client in terms of what are the contract value that's going to be there, or what are the kind of turnover that the company has in the last 3 years, and accordingly suggest also what is the kind of sum insured that they should ideally look at, so that they're never underinsured and they're also not overinsured by kind of spending a lot of money, kind of. That's how it is.
Are there any challenges or barriers that hinder the adoption of corporate insurance among Indian businesses? If so, what steps can be taken to address them?
Yes, so I think this is primarily prevalent in the, I would say, small and medium enterprises or startups, where I think it is primarily, or it is very, very similar to the way a retail consumer behaves to an extent, where people, I think, feel that like in retail also, there are a lot of times that people feel, nothing is going to happen to us and we're going to be fine, and whatever risk is there, it's not going to be on us, it's only going to be others, kind of, right? That is not true. And that's the same thing which we generally see, where people feel that, no, everything is going to be fine with this transit or with this shipment, or everything is going to be fine with our property. So there's no insurance that's required. And this come out very, very much in some of the surveys that we've done in the past as well with some of the businesses and small and medium enterprises. But then all of a sudden, it turns out that, no one is risk-free, and there's no way that we can determine when an accident is going to happen, right? That's where you see a lot of fire accidents or fire incidents and a lot of other stuff happening today in the country at various points of time, which is again not predictable by anyone, and can happen due to any of the reasons which are even outside of our control. That's the similar thing which we see between a retail consumer and a small and medium enterprise customer, or a startup kind of a founder, or a startup team kind of, where they understand to an extent about the risk, but they really feel that the risk will not be applicable to them, or it will never happen to them. That's a challenge in which it is there. Now, the way to obviously probably address that is some of these which we try and do in terms of, and that's one part. The second part is, I think some of the risks are not even known to users a lot of times, right? Especially in business insurance, because they've not been spoken about so well, like unlike the retail products, where there is so many people in the country who try to sell and who try to speak day in, day out and all of that stuff, right? So I think that's one area where we are also working as a partner in the entire ecosystem, where we're trying to market a lot, we're trying to speak a lot in public forums, we're trying to speak a lot with, wherever we find an opportunity that, wherever consumers can listen, kind of, to speak about various kind of products, to make them aware what kind of risk exists and what kind of products will address that risk.
Now, looking ahead, what trends or developments do you foresee in the business insurance landscape in India?
On the trends and the other things, as I said, right, on the employee benefits side, we see a lot of integrated work happening between regular employee health policy and wellness features, kind of. That's one thing which we clearly foresee, which has started to happen, but I think it will happen much in a deeper fashion. The other thing being on the non-employee benefits side, very clearly, I think we will see multiple products evolve over a period of time, where there will be a combination of risks that will be kind of underwritten under a single policy, which to an extent exists today, but I think that's much larger risks. What we'll also see is for smaller risks, and even for small and medium enterprises, or for startups also, you'll see products which will kind of come in, where multiple kinds of risks would kind of coexist in the same policy and will be underwritten in the same policy, kind of.
Thank you, Sajja, for such a detailed explanation. I found it really insightful. I'm sure our audience feels the same. Moving on to our next segment, AskPB. This is where we take questions from our audience about insurance to solve their queries. So, Sajja, today's question is from Rameshwar. He's asking, hi, I have just set up an advertising agency of my own and have about 12 employees currently. What kind of corporate insurance coverage do I need?
So, when someone is saying that, Rameshwar, that there's, you have a 12-member team and it's an advertising agency, one is obviously the employee wellness that you would want to take care of. Whether, generally today, employee health insurance policy is something that people would expect when they're working. And whether it's for employees only, for these 12 people, or covering their spouse and kids, that's one part which you can take care of, which you can look at. Insurance companies do provide health insurance, group health insurance, covering when they have at least a company has 7 employees or above, kind of. Specifically on the business insurance side, assume that you obviously run out of an office and you're saying you're an advertising agency, there must be some creatives at different points of time, or there must be some material on which your team must be working on from time to time, and you must be having some assets in place. So there's clearly a property or a fire insurance which you should have in place to take care of your assets, and tomorrow, in case of a fire accident or some kind of thing, there's no losses that you have to undergo, kind of. And at the same time, the other side of it is, if you're in an advertising field, there's also a possibility that, due to some kind of errors or omissions on your part or in your employee's part, there might be certain issues that your client might face, and that might lead to a suit onto you. So a professional indemnity or a errors and omissions policy is one thing which can cover from, a liability side of it, from your client side. and that's the other thing which you should look at. So these are broadly some of the broad things that you can look at, and again, depending on, let's assume tomorrow your company becomes slightly larger and you get into some kind of contract, then in those contracts, then they might say you should have a directors and officers liability policy or other kind of indemnity policies kind of in place, and that can be looked at from time to time.
Thank you so much for being on the show, Sajja.
Thank you.